So it's out. The Springbok team to go to New Zealand is finally out. It was supposed to come out on Sunday, but they delayed it, probably because of the story about Asenati Tlabakanye, who tested had an adverse finding, as they call it, for banned substance. It's still waiting. There's another video dealing with that one. If you want to know more about that, have a look on the site. But yeah, 36-man squad and very little surprises. The big takeaways from the squad is that Kolisi has been cleared, Pieter-Steph Toit has been cleared, and Jan-Hendrik Wessels, who had concussions, been cleared as well. So all three of them will travel to New Zealand with the Bok team. And with that in mind, they haven't really brought any sort of replacements in. The only guy to come into the squad who came in last week was Makazole Mapimpi, because Edward van der Merwe and Kurt de Orange are both still out. So that's the only real change there. The other guy to fall out of the squad as well is Kobus Visser, who's on standby as well. But the Boks obviously feel they have enough cover, and it's very much a tried and tested squad. A lot of World Cup winners in there, a lot of guys who need to play for their place, and a lot of guys who are going to really have to put in a good effort against New Zealand. Interesting one is the Boks obviously feel that they've got the squad to beat New Zealand in New Zealand, and they've obviously got a plan, and we'll have to see over the next 2 weeks how that plan unfolds. But it's certainly a very interesting squad. So let's go through the squad. There's no real surprises, but I think probably the names left out will cause a bit of debate among some people who might have thought there might be some changes going towards New Zealand. But we can also speculate a bit on what the team to face New Zealand will be like. So let's go through and check out the squad quickly. First, we start up front with the big boys, the props. For the props selected, Thomas du Toit is there as well, Vincent Koch, Wilco Louw, Oxenchair, and Boan Venter. My guess is that Oxenchair would be the guy to pack down. At tight head, it's going to be an interesting one between Thomas, Vincent, and Wilco. My thought would probably be that Wilco will probably get the nod there. And then, of course, we've got the utility forward, Jan-Hendrik Wessels, who was concussed and missed out on the first game against Australia and the second game against Australia because of that concussion. Clash of heads with Eben Etzebeth and in training, and he's back as well. I expect him to probably feature somewhere on the bench for the Springboks. This is also where it gets interesting. We've got Malcolm Marx, Bongi Mbonambi, and Marnus van der Merwe selected as the hookers. 3 hookers, as you always take with. Malcolm Marx probably is sure to start against New Zealand, but Bongi Mbonambi there, he was left out of the second test against Australia. And you've got to wonder how much do you have to read into that. Is he fighting for his place? And I suppose the selection against New Zealand on the bench is going to be very interesting because you need a dog in the fight there, and Bongi is usually one of those dogs, but he really probably hasn't had the greatest international season this year, so he's got something to prove. But Marnus van der Merwe might get in there on the bench as the second hooker. Move across to the locks selected. No real surprises here. Kobus Visser obviously dropping out is the one guy who's not there. Eben Etzebeth, Loert Diago, Franco Mostert, Ron Okia, Archie Snyman. All of them pretty much the guys you'd expect to be there. Just the combination is going to be interesting. Loert and Eben are probably the 2 guys who are in the saddle. So I think Ron Okia could probably challenge for the number 5 role, and Archie will probably be on the bench somewhere. Maybe Archie and Franco if they go for a 6-2 bench as well. But it's going to be an interesting selection. I think the dark horse there is Ron Nokia, who does a lot of work around the park and is really impressed in every single Springbok test he's played. Now the loose forwards, another interesting one with Sia and Pieter-Steph back. They both come into the team easily. Kwagga Smith, who started, is there as well. Marco van Staden, who's played the most minutes for Springbok this year already, is there as well. And Jean-Luc Dupré, who was unfortunately had to withdraw before the game in Cape Town with illness, with gastric flu, is back. And it's good to see him staying along with the squad because it was going to be his first start in 7 years, and he certainly deserves a spot in that group as well. You'd like to see him get a role somewhere in these 2 tests. Of course, Jasper Visser will be travelling with the team. He's still suspended for his headbutt. And unfortunately, he'll only be available in Wellington. So he'll travel with the squad and expect him to feature in that second test in Wellington there. 20 forwards there, moving on to the 16 backs that are being selected. 3 scrum halves as we expected, no changes there. Kobus Reinach, Morne van der Berg, and Grant Williams, the three scrum-halves they've been playing. It's going to be interesting to see if they go with Kobus or Grant Williams. Grant Williams is the guy in the number one spot in my book. I would expect him to play against the All Blacks. And probably Kobus Reinach on the bench, but they might swap that around. Morne van der Berg, I'd be surprised if he gets a shot. He's obviously a decent player, but I think he might be behind the other two in the pecking order in Rossi's thinking at the moment. But certainly, I reckon Grant Williams will probably get the start against the All Blacks. Moving on to the generals, the number 10, the Flyhalves. This is one that always causes a lot of debate in the team, especially when you look ahead to the selection. We've got the banker, Andre Pollard is there, and he, of course, I don't think he's missed a kick this year in the tests he's played. 7 out of 7 on Saturday. Got Sasha Feinberg Mugomazulu came on and can be covered at fullback as well, and might be considered for fullback for that Eden Park test. It's going to be interesting to see what they do there. And then Manie Libbok, who obviously got a lot of criticism after that first Australian test, and it wasn't all his fault, but he did take a lot of flack there through the intercept pass, and was also stepped by Max Jorgensen, the one try as well. So 3 Flyhalves to choose from. I think probably Manie's confidence is a bit down, but all 3 can do the job and have done the job against the All Blacks before, so it's going to be interesting to see where they go. But I think at the moment we might see that Andre is the number 1 guy there again, and they'll go for the banker going into that Eden Park test. Moving on to the midfield now, no surprises here either. Damien de Lende, Andre Esthuizen, Jesse Creel and Ethan Hooker. Jesse and Damien probably the starting midfield against the All Blacks. I think that's no secret as well. Andre Esthuizen, great choice for a bench at the moment because he can also cover forward. So if you go to the 6-2 bench and you pick him as one of the backline players, you actually got a 7-1 bench. And then, of course, Ethan Hooker, I don't think he's probably going to get a look in. He hasn't got a chance really this year to get a prolonged run. So I think they're going to go with tried and tested here, and Ethan's there if there's an injury. Turning to the FOST guys, the wingers, there's been some injuries over the last week. So, losing Kurt Lee Arendse and Edward van der Merwe, who would have probably been in this situation. They would have probably been on this plane to New Zealand. They're no longer there. So, Cheslin Colby's there, Makazole Mapimpi's come back into the team, and Kanan Moody's also there. Of course, Kanan can also play in the midfield as well. Ethan Hooker can also play on the wing. Apelele Fassi moved to wing on the weekend as well. So they've got some options there. Only three wingers, but they're probably going to go with Mapimpi and Colby there. Or you never know. Maybe they go give Kanan Moody a chance. It's going to be an interesting choice on the one wing. I think Cheslin's got the other one sewn up. But certainly something to think about there. Just how do they go in? And that will probably go on the threats that the All Blacks pose in this game. And then finally, the fullbacks. We've got Apelele Fassi, who was there on Saturday, who has been the source of a lot of debate in Australia about the tackle he made and did he release and should it have been a yellow card. He certainly came in. He came in after Willie le Roux pulled out with an injury with a niggle. It's interesting to see that Willie le Roux has been put in there as well. And I've included Damien Willems as a utility back, although he's probably would be under fullbacks anyway. He's also there. He played in the first test against Australia, wasn't in this one. And it's interesting to see who they're going to choose there. They may go for Willie on this one. I might think they might do that. It depends on what they see as the opportunities and the threats. But Damien Willems looked a bit off pace. We certainly know his pedigree. He can easily come in. And Fassi has done very well this last 2 tests as well. In the first test, he was a bit out of position at times, but certainly saved 1 or 2 tries in this test in Cape Town. So interesting choice lies ahead for the Springboks there. And then just finally, just to look at, remind ourselves who's everybody on the injured list, who's missing, and there's a lot of names here. You can see a lot of them would come into the squad quite easily. Looking at Kurt Lee Arendse, Edward van der Merwe, both wingers last week. In the first test against Australia, they were injured. Elrich Lowe and Cameron Honeycomb have got long-term injuries. Elrich's only back in February. Cameron's in November. Gerard Steenekamp, there's still a bit of mystery about him. He had a knee injury. He was supposed to return before the Rugby Championship, and he started running at the Bulls again. I know that, but we haven't heard anything since. We're not sure exactly. Salman Marat got injured in training the other day, about a week or so ago. Not sure about his status. Same with Ntutuku Mchunu, who's obviously moving to the Stormers this season. Going to see what his status is. Jean Klein got injured in the very first Test or the Barbarians game, and we haven't heard much since of where he is in terms of recovery. And then Joano Augustus, who was selected for the squad, highly anticipated after his performances for Northampton Saints, but has moved to Ulster since, and Ulster's handling his injury recovery. So not quite sure what's his status there, but he's obviously not being considered for this tour as well. Finally, a group of players that has either missed out or is on standby, and that could come in if there's an injury. This is probably going to cause some debate as well, because there's a lot of people who feel that some of these guys should be in the squad, and that's obviously it's very debatable, because some of them have got quite strong claims to the squad. We have Evan Roos, who obviously we would have thought might have come in Cape Town with all the loose forwards injuries, but somehow didn't. Kobus Wiese has been, I won't say dropped from the squad, but he didn't make the final squad. He will stay at home on standby. Vincent Sitsuka's went on standby. He played in the test against Italy and Georgia. Faf de Klerk is on standby as well. Lucanio Arm, we're not sure quite. He's apparently fit again, but he's not playing Currie Cup, so we're not sure where he is in terms of his match fitness. Nathan Fouchier played against Georgia, got his first cap there, and is on standby if there is an injury. And then on the other ones, Asenati and Tlabakanya, of course, withdrawn yesterday after the adverse finding in a sample that he'd taken a banned substance. There's a separate video on that whole thing. It's quite an interesting case, so if you want to go have a look at that, go look for that elsewhere on this channel. And then the two Hendrikse brothers, they fell out before the start of the incoming series. Jordan and Jaden, both of them could come in at any time as well. We were sent back to work on a few things. And then Kieran Horn, who has been part of the squad, but sort of on the outer fringes as well, included him, because if there's one or two injuries at the back there, he could also come into play as well. So those are the players that missed out on standby. I might have missed one or two names out. If I do, you're welcome to leave them in the comments. I'm sure there's a couple that I haven't thought about, which you might want to know about. So please do that. But that's, for all intents and purposes, the squad going to New Zealand. So there might be some disappointment that there's not more changes, but I think we're going to see a team that's very much closest to what the box sees their strongest side, and probably filled with World Cup winners going into that game against New Zealand. It's interesting because there's been some debate about are some of these guys nearing the end of their rugby careers, and some questions about some players, but there's obviously still a lot of confidence in them, and this weekend showed that experience took the box through, although it wasn't the most convincing win over Australia. Certainly a lot of questions to be asked, but that's what we expect, and that's the squad they've picked. Rossi obviously feels that this is a squad that can win both tests in New Zealand, and they know they're going to have to win either one or both tests in New Zealand to try and retain their rugby championship, which is of course wide open after Argentina's win over New Zealand. All four teams have one win each, so it's very much the next two games are going to literally set the pace. It'll be a moving day on the log, so we'll see how that goes. But that's the squad to place New Zealand at Eden Park, the big test. New Zealand haven't lost there since 1994 when the French beat them. That's still I think it was the try from the end of the world, they called it, that won that game for France. And some spectacular games there before, but the All Blacks always seem to come out on top. Will that change? Will the Boks be able to do it with this squad? Let me know in the comments what you think. Who do you think missed out, and who do you think would you have liked to have seen there? But this is the squad that's going to New Zealand, so hope they can do it. And waiting to read your comments. Of course, like always, we try and grow the channel, so if you haven't already, give that thumbs up and smash that subscribe button, and we'll chat to you again soon with more videos from this channel. Cheers.